By the way, your daughter.
She's beautiful.
Can I say this? A piece of ass.
Yeah.
She looks more voluptuous than ever.
She's actually always been very voluptuous. She's tall. She's almost 6 feet tall.
What's the favorite thing you have in common with your father?
Either real estate or golf.
Donald, with your daughter?
Well, I was going to say sex, but I can't relate that.
That if Ivanka weren't my daughter, perhaps I'd be dating her. You know?
Stop it. Oh, it's so weird. Stop it. You know what? You are sick.
Trump has always been openly creepy and inappropriate and sometimes downright disgusting with his attraction to his daughter Ivanka. But new reports from an ex-staffer have revealed just how far his obsession really goes. Now, according to Miles Taylor, Trump's lewd comments about his own daughter were so graphic that his chief of staff had to speak up about them. Newsweek reported that aides said he talked about Ivanka Trump's breasts, her backside, and what it might be like to have sex with her. Remarks that once led former chief of staff John Kelly to remind the president that Ivanka was his daughter, Taylor writes. Afterwards, Kelly retold that story to me in visible disgust. Trump, he said, was a very, very evil man. Now, Miles Taylor is a former chief of staff at the Department of Homeland Security. And in 2018, he wrote this anonymous op-ed for the New York Times titled, "I am part of the resistance inside the Trump administration. I work for the president, but like-minded colleagues and I have vowed to thwart parts of his agenda and his worst inclinations." Now, in 2019, Taylor quit the White House and later endorsed Biden for president. But for the women in Trump's regime, his disgusting comments towards his own daughter probably come to no surprise. Ex-Trump aide Stephanie Grisham has been really vocal about Trump's harassment of female staffers and his obsession with one young woman in particular.
Staffer that he worked for me, and he would request for her to be on constant trips when it wasn't her turn. I would rotate the staffers to go on foreign trips, especially. He one time had one of my other deputies bring her back so that they could look at her ass, is what he said to him. And I wrote about this in my book. So this is nothing new for me to be saying publicly, but she, I sat down and talked to her at one point, asked her if she was uncomfortable. I tried everything I could to ensure she was never alone with him. I did take it to a couple of different chiefs of staff, including Mark Meadows. And, I don't like Mark Meadows. Everybody knows that. And, I think at the end of the day, what could they do other than go in there and say, "This isn't good, sir"? And, Donald Trump will do what Donald Trump wants to do. So I don't know that I even blame them. When you're dealing with the president of the United States, again, there's no HR group.
There's no human resources for the president. Now, former advisor Alyssa Farah Griffin also said she witnessed constant sexual harassment and reported it to her higher ups.
It was not locker room talk. Now he's now been charged with, or I should say held liable in this case, for actually committing sexual assault. Like, I cannot underscore that enough. That your guest before made an incredibly important point. Any man or woman who was falsely accused would be the first person to show up and to defend themselves in a rape allegation or a sexual assault allegation. He couldn't be bothered to show up. I have countless cases of what I considered impropriety in the White House that I brought to the chief of staff because I thought the way he engaged with women was dangerous.
Wow.
Jeff, on the one hand, these women are working for Donald Trump of their own volition. So you want to say that they should know the man that they're working for, but on the other hand, of course, sexual harassment in the workplace, no one deserves to be subject to that behavior.
Yeah, absolutely. These are likely women who are trying to further their careers and further themselves, whether it's in the political arena or not. And they're not walking in there in order to be subjected to some gross old man saying stuff about their bodies because he can't control his eyes or his mouth, even with them or his daughter. And I'm sitting here and honestly, I'm just waiting for a conservative pundit to try to debunk all of this as if there's not plausible deniability, or as if there is plausible deniability with Trump, seeing how, as the opening showed with those clips, he says this stuff publicly. How much more would he say behind the scenes when he doesn't think people are going to report on it or tell on him? So he has snitched on himself in this case also.
Right, and with these, I feel I do feel horrible for his daughter. I think that she has said some really horrible things publicly, but I mean, to have your father constantly sexually harassing you, all of your, I wouldn't even say all of her adult life, because some of the times he's been sexually inappropriate with her, she wasn't even an adult yet. So I mean, to have your formative years shaped by your father's, perversion, I mean, I can't even imagine that. But for the women who worked for him, they're right about there being no HR. And how high up can you report this when eventually the highest person is Donald Trump himself? And the only way that he could really be held accountable is not to be elected or to be voted out of office.
Yeah. And one more thing. Yeah, I would imagine that's going to be very bad for anyone who has worked for him in the past or in the future, because when the truth comes out, there's going to be no recourse or any accountability. It's going to fall on deaf ears and people aren't going to believe them, which has been the case for women in this country for centuries, that no matter what you say or tell what's going on, someone's not going to believe you for whatever case. And in Trump's case, he's just going to get elected into office anyway. It's going to bolster his fan base.
Right. And it doesn't matter how often this sexual harassment happened in front of a camera or he admitted to doing it himself. These women are still going to be told that they're lying by his rabid fans.